this second one. Let's see what we got. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, sweet. My chopper bulbs are here. We'll have to catch that on the Merc Vapor channel. Want to eclipse Jerry's new friend, the sock monkey. We brought him home too. Jerry's very happy. You know what these are? They are delicious. I grew up with them. They are kolaches. Sometimes up here called kolaches. But they're bread with a fruit filling. I've heard that there's more savory versions of this. I always grew up with apricot or cherry or blackberry was a common one. And I just absolutely love them. It's a Saturday. It's gotten to be too cold outside in Minnesota to ride motorcycles, so we're going to spend some time in the basement working on some vintage electronics. And this isn't terribly old stuff, but it's old enough. I'm going to guess Pentium 2 or 3. Poor guy was stored in an outbuilding and has seen better days. We'll clean him up, kind of see what's going on here. Looks like it ran XP, so I'm going to guess Pentium 2. We'll find out. I sat down to start cleaning and I found the Pentium 4 badge, so I'm way off. But I guess I've been in computing for so long that this all sort of bleeds together. You know, I've got a 286 PS250Z that I've been working on. That was my first real PC. Learned to program Pascal on that. Prior to that, I was doing BASIC on Commodores. So anyway, you'll forgive me because Pentium 4 seems way too new for XP, but apparently that is not the case. Okay, well, it's far from perfect, but it's better than it was. And it looks like we're dealing with a Dell Dimension 4550. Off to YouTube we go, because I'm not smart enough to figure out how to open this. It's nice to note, though, that there is a trapdoor for earphones, and I assume a keyboard could go into here. So that's pretty cool. Okay, well, that was interesting. There's push buttons here and on the bottom of the case. You press those in and it latches up like this. And, well, it looks kind of filthy inside. I don't know if this thing is working, and I really don't want to turn it on until I clean it up a little bit. I don't see anything super surprising. It looks like it's all here, so I'm gonna get to clean it. Okay, well, I've been on the inside of this case now, and at the hinge where it opens, there's a little bit of rust along the bottom of the case. And I'm not surprised. This came out of a outbuilding on a farm, so it's probably had some of its life outside. The rest of the components look pretty good. I didn't see any chewed up wires or anything like that. And I just kind of looked at the caps and they look to be intact. So we'll plug her in and see if indeed this thing powers up for us. One thing I didn't do is I didn't verify that there was onboard video, and it looks like somebody has already cannibalized it for a video card. Hopefully that was for an upgrade. And you can see some of the rust and gunk I was talking about. Maybe I can take that off at some point and do something more with it. I know I really should. What I'm gonna do is gonna really probably make some of the vintage computing guys cringe. I turned it on with stuff disconnected and it did power up. I'm just going to plug in a video card. In this case, it looks like I need an AGP card and hope for the best. And I know in the future I'll probably look at this and think, what the heck was I doing? One of the nice things about these Dells is everything is quick release. So there's no screws. This is just a lever. I guess nice or not, depending on your viewpoint. It'll make it easier. And this whole thing for me means I'm going to get into some of my extra video cards and take an inventory. Winner, I did have an AGP card. I do not know what kind it is, and it definitely needs to be cleaned up. Okay, moment of truth. We're gonna power it on. You know, and this machine is incredibly quiet. But hey, we have life. Go into setup. Pentium 4, 2 gigahertz. Got a hard drive? Yes, we do. A CD-ROM. Wow, whopping 256 megabytes of SD RAM. That's probably about right for that era. So all in all, this was probably a pretty decent machine for its age. Let's see if she'll boot. I have not replaced the BIOS battery, and I'm gonna guess it is deader. Wow. Well, there you go. So I managed to resurrect a Pentium 4, 2 gigahertz, 256 gigabytes of RAM with an AGP video card. It was easy. I didn't have to do anything except for clean it up a little bit, verify that the parts were there, plug in a new video card, and we're off to the races. So I'll get this labeled and put in with the excess machines, and we'll move on to the next one. Now, before I go on, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for old DOS machines. And it's getting harder and harder to get them at a reasonable cost. I think a lot of times the capacitors have problems, or the batteries leak on the board and cause problems with the main boards. I kick myself because probably 3 years ago I had a box full of 386 and 486 boards thinking they were worthless, and well, I got rid of them. Sad. So, there you have it. And I know some of you are probably asking yourself, why bother with this old tech? And I understand. That's probably where I was a few years ago. And all I can tell you is powering up an old PS250Z 286 running DOS, and the old software that I used to run was super awesome. If you grew up with computers in the 80s, 90s, even 2000s, and experimented or played with the things that we did, right now in the world of instant gratification, and that's even debatable because half of the stuff doesn't work unless you really mess with it. A lot of these things, they just sort of work. And, well, the testament to it is the number of machines I boot up that are 40 or 50 years old, and they're still rocking and rolling. You know, that's not to say that I haven't run across some that need repairs. That's definitely true as well, especially for the ones that are neglected. But it's fun to get to play some of that archaeology with old school computers. It's also fun to play old games. So there you have it. So one thing I promised the previous owner is that I would nuke all data on this system. And I've got a USB drive that will allow me to do that. And as I was afraid of, this system does not have a boot from USB option. I think USB drives, like there's USB ports on this that are used for keyboards and mice, but I think it was a few years later that USBs started getting used for more and more stuff. So, off to my other PC we go, and I will burn a CD. Now the video card, I figured out what it was watching the system as it posted. It is an NVIDIA GeForce FX 5200, which looks like it was a fairly common card, launched in about 2003, and that would make sense because well, the person I got this from, we were building software-defined radios using the Flex 1000. That was a while ago, and I picked up mine at Dayton Hamvention in 2005. So I'm going to guess this machine is circa 2004. I'm going to bet he was running his SDR on it based on the software that I saw, and it's actually a better machine than I'm still running mine. I've got a AMD K62, I want to say, or an Athlon of some sort, running my SDR 1000. So I might keep this as a backup machine. Holy cow, I just went to Dell's website to see if I could score some of the drivers for that Dimension 4550, and they are still up there. It is wild. Okay, as promised, DBAN is working its magic, and we're deleting the drive. We'll come back to that, and now I'm going to focus some attention on some vintage Commodores. This is the one I have in mind. Now, I've got a tech key on the keyboard on this one, and I've got some tools to work on that, but first I'm going to boot it with a diagnostic card and see if we get good reports. Some of them will fail because I think they're called harnesses that do things like terminate properly the cassette or drive the serial ports on these things. But I should get an idea about memory and the chips that are on the board. And again, I'm no expert in this stuff. I'm just an enthusiast that's looking to see if he can resurrect some old hardware. Certainly not an electrical engineer. I am a software engineer, but that's a different story. Anyway, we'll boot this up and see if we get any lights. Okay, I've got the diagnostic board in the machine. Power it on. Survey says, okay, well that's good. Okay, and all the stuff that's reporting bad I would have guessed because I don't have harnesses to properly terminate and such. It appears I have a fully functional breadbox Commodore 64 here. I just need to do a little work on this key. So I've reassembled. It's cleaned up. Although I gotta admit to you, I cheated. I took a keyboard from my VIC-20 and just put the right function keys on it. It was one of my repair for parts VIC-20s. These are the same keyboards, the Commodore 64s and the VICs. This one works completely and it's clean. The spacebar on the keyboard sticks a little bit. I'll show you that. I will open up the keyboard that was in this. It looks like somebody had spilled Coke or something on it. It was nasty. You probably saw me as I was opening it. I need this shift lock key is mechanical on these keyboards. It looks like this one wants to stick a little bit too, but that's much more dealable than having one of the keys on the main keyboard. You've got to unsolder that to get into the internals of the keyboard and clean it up. And I'll probably need to do that with this one anyway, just because of the spacebar situation. I was trying to avoid it. You can actually buy these keyboards online as well. They're still selling them, and perhaps I will pick one of those up. But anyway, you can see that the 64 is indeed booting. I'm able to type. I'm hitting the space bar and it's not wanting to register. It's got to be hit just right. But it is up and functional. I'm going to mark this as worked and note that the space bar sticks, and we'll fix that later. Show you it's running. I even typed in our favorite first programming. This was the basic equivalent to Hello World. I bet many of you know how to make this happen.